So let's get into what actually went down. October 17th, John Hedge arrives at the Soure-Ibanya border crossing. This is one of the busiest trade routes between Tanzania and Kenya. Thousands of people cross daily. Now Hedge is going to pay respect to Raila Odinga's funeral in Kenya. And Raila wasn't just any politician. He was a Pan-African icon, someone who spent decades fighting for democracy across East Africa. The symbolism here matters, but when Hedges tries to cross, Tanzanian officials pull him aside. No explanation. They confiscate his passport, tell him he's not going anywhere. Now think about this for a second. Hedge isn't some revolutionary firebrand. He's a deputy party leader trying to attend a funeral. The Tanzanian government could have just let him go quietly, but they didn't. Why not? Because they are scared. And here is the part that should terrify any authoritarian regime watching this unfold. What happens next proved them right to be scared. Within 3 hours, words of Hedges' detention spread across TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, videos, voice notes, screenshots. And here's where things get unprecedented. Kenyans start showing up at the border, not Tanzanian opposition supporters, Kenyans. Young people who had never met John Hedge, who had no stakes in Tanzania's internal affairs. They are holding Kenyan and Tanzanian flags, chanting, "One Africa, one youth." Tanzanian youth on the other side of the border joined them. Now picture this scene. 2 governments, 1 border checkpoints, and hundreds of young people demanding something neither governments wanted to give. The Tanzanian authorities had a choice: escalate or release him. They released him. Pause and think about that. When was the last time a government backed down same day because of a spontaneous border protest? This wasn't planned by political parties, no NGO coordination, no Western funding, just young people with smartphones who decided they had had enough. But here is where mainstream media gets the story completely wrong. They will tell you this was about one politician, about opposition politics, about Kenya-Tanzania tensions. They are missing the real story. What happened at that border wasn't a protest, it was a test, and the results of that test are about to reshape how power works in East Africa. Let me explain. There is an African proverb I always like to use. When spider webs unite, they can tie up a lion. That border, that was spider webs learning to unite. See, what these youths figured out without fully realizing it is that borders only work when both sides agree to enforce them. The Ibanya-Soure crossing handles millions of dollars in agricultural trade every week. Families live on both sides, workers cross daily. When hundreds of people show up, refusing to move until something changes, the calculation shifts. The Institute of Security Studies warned exactly about this regional domino effect. If governments keep cracking down without recognizing that youth anger doesn't respect borders anymore. Now, here is what keeps East African leaders up at night. Kenya's government watched their youth nearly bring down a finance bill in June. Uganda's Museveni has seen protests brewing, and now Tanzania's Samia just learned that arresting one opposition figure can trigger a regional response within hours. The technology changed everything. A 22-year-old in Nairobi sees what's happening at the Tanzania border and can rally friends within minutes. A student in Dar es Salaam live streams a protest and thousands watch in real time across 5 countries. So what do you do when you're a government that builds your power on controlling information and limiting opposition organizing? President Samia's response tells you everything about how seriously they are taking this. Back in 2025, she went on record warning about Kenyan meddling activists interfering in Tanzania's affairs. She framed the crackdown as defending peace and sovereignty. Tanzanian MPs even scolded Kenyans for trolling Samia online. They were furious about AI-generated memes mocking the president. The CCM party, which has ruled Tanzania since independence, urged youth to shun calls for unrest before the October 29th elections. But here is what they didn't count on. They warned that chaos will harm vulnerable groups. Classic authoritarian playbook. Frame dissent as dangerous, yourself as the protector. But here is what they didn't count on. When you treat a border protest as a threat to national sovereignty, you are admitting something very important. And that admission changes the game entirely. Okay, let's zoom out. What we are watching isn't just about Tanzania. It's a new model of African political organizing emerging in real time. For decades, African governments relied on 3 things to maintain control. 1. Controlling physical spaces where people gather. 2. Controlling information through state media. And 3. Keeping opposition movements fragmented along ethnic or regional lines. All these 3 became obsolete. These youth organized digitally. They crossed borders physically and symbolically. They weren't loyal to any political party. They were loyal to an idea: accountability. An analyst at Al Jazeera wrote, East Africa's rulers saw what Gen Z can do. Now they are striking first. But here is the paradox. The more they strike first, the more the proof why these protests are necessary. Now, some will say these protests are destabilizing, that they are foreign influenced, that Tanzania needs stability more than democratic reforms right now. And look, there is a version of that argument that makes sense. Rapid political change can be messy. Economic development requires some level of predictability. But here is what that argument misses. You can't build lasting stability on repression. You can't achieve economic growth when 60% of your population feels unheard. And you definitely can't integrate regionally through the East African community while simultaneously arresting people for trying to cross borders peacefully. The math doesn't work. The East African community was built on principles of free movement, shared prosperity, and democratic governance. Tanzania's government is actively contradicting all 3. So where does this go from here? 3 scenarios, and I want you to pay attention because one of these is already starting to play out. Scenario 1, Tanzania doubles down. More arrests, more restrictions, more border tensions. The October 29th election happened under heavy repression. Opposition loses, blames fraud, and we get months of instability. Scenario 2, the government blinks again, makes small concessions, allows some opposition activity, buys time but doesn't address the underlying frustration. This kicks the problem down the road, maybe 6 months. Scenario 3, and this one is the one that matters. This youth movement matures into something that is more structured. They learn to sustain momentum beyond viral moments. They build coalitions, not just across Kenya and Tanzania, but Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi,